At a family dinner, my sister said, "Mom and Dad promised I could live with you." I took a sip of water and replied, "That's awkward. I sold the house last Friday to a couple." My name is Lauren, and at 35, I never expected to see that family group chat notification again. Sitting in my $12 million Beverly Hills estate, successful founder of a renewable energy empire I built from nothing, I froze. 12 years of family exclusion had left scars that success could not heal. The message from my sister was simple: Mom and Dad promised I could live with you when I graduate college next month. I took a sip of my imported Italian mineral water and typed back, "That's awkward. I sold the house last week to a couple." Tell me where you're watching from and hit that like and subscribe button before we dive into how I watched the chaos unfold when they realized what was coming. Growing up in suburban Phoenix, my childhood should have been picture perfect. My father, Robert, worked as a mechanical engineer at Boeing, bringing home a solid six-figure salary. My mother, Patricia, managed a successful real estate agency, known throughout Scottsdale for closing impossible deals. From the outside, we appeared to be the ideal American success story, living in a sprawling ranch house with a 3-car garage and a border collie named Rusty. But appearances can be deceiving. I was the middle child of 3. My older brother Nathan was 5 years my senior, the star quarterback who earned a full ride to Arizona State. Everything he touched turned to gold: football scholarships, business degree, charming smile that made everyone gravitate toward him. My younger sister Brooklyn, 3 years behind me, was the princess of the family with her perfect auburn curls and magnetic personality. She was head cheerleader, class president, and could sweet-talk her way out of any trouble. And then there was me, the forgotten middle child. From my earliest memories, I felt the difference in treatment like a constant ache. While my siblings received standing ovations for their achievements, mine were met with distracted nods or ignored entirely. When I brought home straight A's, my mother would barely glance up from her phone. "That's what we expect, Lauren." When Nathan or Brooklyn brought home the same grades, there would be celebration dinners at the Cheesecake Factory and posts about their incredible children on Facebook. "Why can't you be more outgoing like Brooklyn?" my mother would ask when I preferred reading to cheerleading tryouts. "She was winning popularity contests at your age." My father was equally dismissive. He attended every single one of Nathan's football games, cheering from the stands and bragging to his colleagues about his son's athletic achievements. But when I qualified for the National Science Olympiad in 8th grade, he claimed he was too busy with a work project to attend. "Science competitions aren't really spectator sports, Lauren," he said with a shrug. "Besides, I have this important presentation to prepare." I later discovered he had rescheduled that presentation to watch Nathan's scrimmage game. My 13th birthday was the clearest example of where I stood in the family hierarchy. Mom had promised a pool party at our house with friends from school. I had been looking forward to it for weeks, even designing the invitations myself with my new graphics software skills. The morning of my birthday, I woke up early, excited for the celebration. "Lauren, there's been a change of plans," my mother announced over breakfast. "Brooklyn made varsity cheerleading as an 8th grader, and the team is having an emergency practice today. We all need to be there to support her historic achievement." My heart sank as I watched my birthday dissolve before my eyes. "But Mom, my friends are coming in 3 hours. We can't cancel now." "Don't be selfish," my father interjected, not even looking up from his Wall Street Journal. "This is a big day for your sister. Family comes first. Family comes first." That phrase would echo through my mind for years to come, especially when I realized it never seemed to apply when I needed support. The party was hastily cancelled while I called each friend with tears threatening to spill, explaining that we'd have to celebrate another time. Then I was dragged to Brooklyn's practice where I sat alone in the bleachers for 4 hours, invisible while my parents filmed every routine and my sister basked in the attention of coaches and teammates. No one sang happy birthday that day. No one even mentioned it was my birthday. When we got home, there was no cake waiting, just leftover Chinese takeout from Brooklyn's celebration dinner. I ate alone in my room, tears silently falling onto my sweet and sour chicken. Brooklyn was perhaps the cruelest in her systematic torment. As a teenager, when I was still in middle school, she found sophisticated ways to make me feel worthless. She would invite friends over and then actively exclude me from their activities, locking me out of common areas or speaking in whispers that stopped the moment I appeared. She borrowed my things without asking and returned them broken if at all. When I complained to our parents, she would put on her perfect innocent face. "Lauren's just being dramatic again," she'd say with that practiced sweet smile, and they would believe her every time. Brooklyn had perfected the art of psychological manipulation, making me question my own reality. Nathan wasn't actively mean, just completely indifferent. As the big brother, he could have protected me from Brooklyn's bullying, but he chose to remain in his own world of sports achievements and social status. He was too busy being the golden boy to notice the quiet suffering of his middle sister. The only person who showed me genuine love was my maternal grandmother Rose, who lived 2 hours away in Tucson. During her monthly visits, I felt seen for the first time. "You have something special inside you, Lauren," she would tell me as we worked on puzzles together in the kitchen. "One day, the world will see what I see in you." She brought me books because she noticed how much I loved to read, unlike my parents who viewed my reading habit as antisocial behavior. She attended my science fairs and academic competitions, sitting in the front row and beaming with pride while my parents were notably absent. With Grandma Rose, I didn't have to compete for attention or prove my worth. Her love was freely given. In school, I excelled academically and showed early entrepreneurial spirit, starting a small tutoring service in 10th grade. My teachers praised my intelligence and business acumen. But at home, these accomplishments were minimized or ignored entirely. "Book smarts will only get you so far in life," my father would say dismissively when I showed him my report card or told him about my tutoring business profits. "You need to develop people skills like Brooklyn if you want to succeed in the real world." I tried desperately to earn their approval. I signed up for debate team like Brooklyn, but when I advanced to state championships, my parents were too busy with Nathan's college recruitment visits to attend. I started a successful dog walking business in our neighborhood, saving every dollar for college, but they barely acknowledged this achievement. By the time I reached senior year of high school, I had resigned myself to being the invisible child. I focused obsessively on my studies and business ideas, knowing that education and entrepreneurship were my tickets to freedom. I applied for scholarships in secret, determined to forge my own path without relying on parents who had already made it clear I was an afterthought. When acceptance letters came from top universities, including Stanford and MIT, my parents seemed genuinely surprised, as if they had never considered that I might be capable of such achievements. Their reaction was lukewarm at best. "Those schools are very expensive," was my father's first comment, "and very far from home." I detected a note of relief in his voice at the thought of my leaving Arizona. It confirmed what I had always suspected: I was an obligation they couldn't wait to discharge, not a beloved daughter they would miss. My heart broke a little more that day, but it also strengthened my resolve to build a life where I would finally be valued. Little did I know that the worst betrayal was yet to come, and that the true nature of my place in the family would be revealed in the cruelest way possible. The pivotal moment that destroyed any remaining illusions about my family came when I was 22. I had graduated from Stanford with honors, earning dual degrees in environmental engineering and business. I had secured a position at a clean energy startup in San Diego, my first step toward the independence I craved. I was finally starting to believe that maybe, just maybe, I could earn my family's respect through sheer achievement. Then came the call that Grandma Rose had passed away unexpectedly from a stroke. I was devastated. The one person who had made me feel loved and valued was gone. I flew back to Phoenix immediately for the funeral, my heart heavy with grief that seemed to echo through my entire being. The funeral was a somber affair with relatives I barely recognized offering hollow condolences and sharing memories of my grandmother. Throughout the service, I sat alone in the third row while my parents, Nathan, and Brooklyn clustered together in the front, presenting their unified image of family grief. No one thought to check if I was okay, despite knowing how close I had been to Grandma Rose. After the service, the family gathered at my parents' house. The reading of the will was scheduled for that afternoon. I sat quietly in the corner of the living room, looking through a photo album of Grandma Rose, trying to process my loss while surrounded by people who had never truly accepted me. When the lawyer arrived, everyone assembled in the formal dining room. As he read through the will, most items were distributed predictably. Grandma Rose's house went to my mother, her vintage Cadillac to Nathan, and her extensive jewelry collection to Brooklyn. Then came the surprise that would change everything. To my beloved granddaughter Lauren, the lawyer read, "I leave my emerald engagement ring and the sum of $8,000. You are always the brightest star in my sky, and I know you will illuminate the world." The room fell silent. Then my mother let out a bitter laugh. $8,000 and her old ring? That's all. I was stunned by her reaction. I hadn't expected anything and was deeply touched by Grandma Rose's gesture. The emerald ring was a family heirloom that had belonged to my great-great-grandmother. It wasn't the monetary value that mattered to me, but the profound sentiment behind it. My father's face had turned an alarming shade of red. "This is completely inappropriate," he sputtered. "Rose always did show favoritism toward Lauren for some unknown reason." "For some unknown reason?" I echoed, finding my voice for the first time. Maybe because she was the only person in this family who ever showed me genuine kindness. That was when the dam burst. Years of resentment and carefully guarded secrets came pouring out like a toxic flood. "You want to talk about kindness?" my father shouted, his composure completely shattered. "We've supported you financially for 22 years when we had absolutely no obligation to do so. We've given you opportunities most kids could only dream of. And this is the gratitude we receive." Confusion washed over me like ice water. "No obligation? What are you talking about?" My mother shot my father a warning look, but it was too late. The words were already tumbling out, and there was no stopping the avalanche of truth that would bury my entire sense of identity. "You're not even our biological daughter," he spat out with venom I had never heard from him before. "We adopted you when you were 18 months old after your birth mother died in a car accident. Jennifer was Patricia's college sorority sister, got herself pregnant, refused to name the father, then died in a drunk driving incident. No other family members would take responsibility for you, so we stepped up out of compassion." The room spun around me as if I were caught in a tornado of revelation. Adopted. The word echoed in my mind like a gunshot in an empty canyon. This couldn't be real. I looked desperately at my mother, silently pleading for her to deny it, to tell me this was some cruel joke. Instead, she sighed heavily, as if this conversation was an inconvenience. "We planned to tell you when you were older, but then it never seemed like the right time to bring it up." 22 years, and it had never been the right time to tell me the most fundamental truth about my own existence. All those years of feeling like I didn't belong, like I was somehow different, suddenly made horrible sense. "So I've been living a complete lie my entire life?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. "Most of the extended family knows," Brooklyn said with a casual shrug, as if discussing the weather. "It's not exactly been a secret. We just didn't feel the need to make a big deal about it." Not a secret to anyone except me, the person whose entire identity had been built on false foundations. I felt physically sick. The room was spinning, and I gripped the edge of the dining table to steady myself. Why did Grandma Rose leave the ring specifically to Lauren anyway? Nathan asked the lawyer with obvious irritation. Shouldn't family heirlooms stay with actual blood relatives? Blood relatives. Those words sliced through me like a blade. The lawyer looked deeply uncomfortable as he responded. Mrs. Rose specifically stated that Lauren should receive the ring because, and I quote, "True family is built on love, not biology." That set my father off on another tirade. That interfering old woman always undermined our parenting decisions, filling Lauren's head with unrealistic expectations, making her think she was special when we were trying to teach her to be grateful for what she had. "Grateful?" I asked, my voice rising with each word. "And what exactly should I be grateful for?" "You should be thankful we took you in at all," Brooklyn interjected with that familiar condescending tone. "Do you have any idea how many kids end up in foster care? You had privileges most orphans could never imagine." I looked at my sister, no, my adoptive sister, seeing her clearly for the first time. Privileges like being constantly reminded that I wasn't as good as you or Nathan. Like having my birthdays forgotten and my achievements ignored. Those kinds of privileges. "This is exactly why we never told you," my mother said coldly. "We knew you'd react emotionally instead of logically." Finding out my entire life has been built on lies seems like a pretty reasonable thing to be emotional about, I shot back. My father stood up, towering over the table with obvious rage. "That's enough. I won't have you speaking to your mother that way under our roof. If you can't show some appreciation for everything we've sacrificed for you, then maybe you should leave." I looked around the table at the faces of people I had called family for 22 years. None of them came to my defense. Not even Nathan, who had always been the least actively hostile toward me. In that moment, I made my decision. "Fine," I said quietly, gathering my purse and the small box containing Grandma Rose's emerald ring. "I'll go. But first, I want to know one thing. Was any of it real? Did you ever love me at all, or was I just a charity case you regretted taking on? The silence that followed told me everything I needed to know. I walked out of that house and never looked back, vowing to build a life so successful that they would one day deeply regret throwing me away. Little did I know just how spectacularly that vow would be fulfilled. With just $8,000 to my name and an emerald ring I vowed never to sell, I arrived in San Diego determined to forge a completely new beginning. The money wouldn't last long in California's expensive economy, so I had to be incredibly strategic about every decision. I found a tiny studio apartment in a questionable neighborhood, sharing a converted garage with another young woman named Ashley who worked night shifts at a local hospital. My portion of the rent consumed nearly half of my inheritance immediately, but it gave me a roof over my head and the independence I desperately needed. The apartment was cramped, with just enough space for a twin bed, a small desk, and a mini fridge. We shared a bathroom that had seen better days, and the neighborhood wasn't exactly safe after dark. It was a far cry from the comfortable suburban home I'd grown up in, but it was mine, and there was profound freedom in that realization. I secured an entry-level position as a research assistant at a small renewable energy company. The pay was minimal, barely covering my basic expenses, but it was a foot in the door of an industry I was passionate about. My days consisted of data entry, equipment testing, and documentation tasks that didn't fully utilize my education, but I approached every assignment with determination and excellence. "You're clearly overqualified for this position," my supervisor remarked during my 3-month review. "But your work ethic is impressive. Keep this up and there will be opportunities for advancement." I didn't want to wait for gradual advancement through corporate hierarchy. Each night after work, I would return to my tiny studio and spend hours researching emerging technologies in solar energy and wind power. I enrolled in free online courses, participated in renewable energy forums, and began developing concepts for more efficient energy storage systems. Sleep became a luxury I could rarely afford, but every hour of work was an investment in my future independence. To save money, I survived on ramen noodles and peanut butter sandwiches, cut my own hair, shopped exclusively at thrift stores, and walked miles to avoid paying for gas when possible. Every dollar saved was a dollar that could fuel my dreams. 6 months into my self-imposed exile from my adoptive family, I attended a free workshop on solar panel efficiency at the local community college. The presenter was Dr. Amanda Torres, a renowned expert in photovoltaic technology from UC San Diego. I sat in the back row, absorbing every word and taking detailed notes on concepts I wanted to research further. When the formal presentation ended and the crowd began to disperse, I gathered my courage and approached her with a specific technical question about solar cell degradation rates that she had mentioned. Dr. Torres looked surprised by the sophistication of my question. "That's a very insightful observation," she said. "Most people wouldn't catch that particular nuance. Are you working in the renewable energy field?" I explained my background and current situation, carefully avoiding the painful personal details about my family situation. Something about Dr. Torres's genuine interest and attentive listening made me feel valued in a way I hadn't experienced since Grandma Rose. "You have a real intuition for this technology," she said after our conversation. "I'm organizing a Clean Energy Innovation Challenge next month at the university. You should definitely participate." That innovation challenge changed the entire trajectory of my career and my life. Working with a team of strangers, I helped develop a breakthrough concept for residential battery storage that could revolutionize how homes manage renewable energy. Our solution won second place and, more importantly, caught the attention of several venture capital firms specializing in clean technology investments. Dr. Torres became my unofficial mentor, inviting me to additional industry events and connecting me with key players in the renewable energy sector. "You see solutions that others miss because you approach problems from unique angles," she told me after I presented some of my energy storage ideas. "You have the kind of innovative thinking this industry desperately needs." Under her guidance, I began developing a comprehensive business plan for a revolutionary home battery system that could store solar energy more efficiently than anything currently on the market. The concept had enormous potential, but turning it into a viable company would require significant capital that I simply didn't have. "You should seriously consider seeking investors," Dr. Torres suggested. "This technology could completely transform residential energy independence." The world of venture capital was completely foreign to someone who had grown up middle class in Phoenix. I spent weeks researching pitch strategies, refining my business plan, and practicing presentations in front of my bathroom mirror. Dr. Torres introduced me to several of her industry contacts, but the initial responses were predictably lukewarm. The concept shows promise, but you have zero track record as an entrepreneur, was the typical feedback. Come back when you have a working prototype and some market validation. We typically invest in founders with more experience in scaling businesses, another investor told me dismissively. Rejection after rejection piled up like a mountain of disappointment. 18 different investors turned me down, each dismissal echoing the rejections I had faced from my adoptive family throughout my childhood. But unlike then, I refused to accept that I simply wasn't good enough. To support myself financially while pursuing my entrepreneurial vision, I took a second job bartending at a popular tech industry hangout in downtown San Diego. The irony wasn't lost on me that I was serving overpriced cocktails to successful entrepreneurs, whose ranks I was desperately trying to join. The late-night shifts were exhausting after full days at the renewable energy company, but they provided crucial additional income and unexpected networking opportunities that would prove invaluable. One evening, a customer named Carlos left an unusually generous tip after we had a brief conversation about the future of home energy systems. He returned the following week and asked more probing questions about my background and business ideas. After several such conversations over the course of a month, he revealed that he was actually an angel investor who specialized in clean technology startups. "I've been testing you," he admitted with a slight smile. "Seeing if you really understand the technology or if you're just another person with big dreams and no substance. You clearly know what you're talking about." 2 weeks later, I received my first investment, $150,000 to develop a working prototype of my residential battery system. It was a fraction of what established startups typically received, but it was enough to quit my research assistant job and focus entirely on building my product. I kept the bartending position on weekends, both for additional cash flow and to stay connected to the entrepreneurial community. The development process was grueling beyond anything I had imagined. I rented a small workspace in an industrial area and worked 16-hour days, 7 days a week. There were technical challenges I hadn't anticipated, requiring me to learn new engineering skills on the fly. There were moments of crushing doubt when prototypes failed or when battery configurations wouldn't hold a charge. During those dark moments, I would hold Grandma Rose's emerald ring and remember her words, "You were always the brightest star in my sky." Her belief in me became the fuel that kept me going when everything seemed impossible. 5 years after walking out of my adoptive family's house, EcoVault Energy had become one of the fastest-growing residential battery companies in America. Our revolutionary storage systems were installed in over 50,000 homes across 12 states. I had moved from my studio apartment to a stunning $12 million estate in Beverly Hills, complete with its own solar array and battery system that served as a living demonstration of our technology. The financial success was staggering, but the emotional satisfaction of proving my worth was even greater. I had built more than a company. I had created a chosen family of employees, mentors, and friends who valued my contributions and celebrated my achievements. Then came that family group chat notification that would bring my past crashing into my present. Brooklyn's message was casual, almost entitled, "Mom and Dad promised I could live with you when I graduate college next month. I'm so excited to move to California and start my influencer career. Can't wait to see your amazing house." I stared at the message in disbelief. 12 years of complete silence, and now she expected to waltz into the life I had built without them? The audacity was breathtaking. I took a sip of my imported mineral water and typed back, "That's awkward, I sold the house last week to a couple." The response was immediate and chaotic. My phone exploded with confused messages. "What do you mean you sold it? Where are you living now? Mom and Dad said they talked to you about this. This isn't funny, Lauren." I screenshot their panicked responses and sent them to Dr. Torres, who had become like a surrogate mother to me over the years. Her reply made me laugh out loud. "The audacity is almost impressive. Want me to come over with wine while you watch this unfold?" That evening, as I sat by my infinity pool overlooking the city lights, my phone rang. It was my adoptive mother, Patricia, calling for the first time in over a decade. "Lauren, there seems to be some confusion," she said, her voice strained with barely controlled frustration. "We've been planning for Brooklyn to stay with you after graduation. Robert and I assumed you'd want to help family." "Family." I repeated the word slowly, letting it hang in the air. That's interesting, Patricia. I wasn't aware we were still family. The last time we spoke, you made it quite clear that I should be grateful you took in an unwanted orphan. The silence on the other end stretched uncomfortably long. That was a long time ago, she finally said. We were all emotional after Rose's funeral. Surely you don't still hold grudges about things said in grief. Grudges? I laughed, and it came out harder than I intended. Patricia, you excluded me from your lives for 12 years. I've seen the Facebook photos of family gatherings, holiday celebrations, Nathan's wedding, Brooklyn's graduation parties, all captioned with phrases like complete family, and everyone we love together. I got the message loud and clear. We thought you needed space to mature, she said defensively. What I needed was a family who loved me unconditionally. What I got was a family who threw me away the moment I questioned my place in it. I paused, looking at the emerald ring that never left my finger. But thank you for that, actually. Being rejected by you forced me to build something better than I ever could have imagined. The conversation ended with Patricia's cold ultimatum: if you won't help Brooklyn, then I suppose there's nothing left to discuss between us. Finally, I said quietly, something we can agree on. As I hung up the phone, I felt a profound sense of closure. The family that had defined me by my absence had lost their power to hurt me. In their place was a life filled with people who had earned their place through love, respect, and genuine connection. I opened my laptop and began typing a response to Brooklyn's group chat. Since there seems to be confusion, let me clarify, I didn't sell the house. I simply have no intention of sharing my home with people who spent 12 years pretending I didn't exist. Build your own life, Brooklyn. I certainly had to. Then I left the group chat permanently, finally free from the family that had never truly been mine. Looking out at the city I had conquered, wearing the ring from the one person who had truly loved me, I smiled. Sometimes the best revenge is simply living well, and I was living extraordinarily well indeed. The wounds of rejection had transformed into the foundation of an empire, and I had never been more grateful to be exactly who I was, Lauren, the girl who built her own family and her own fortune, one brilliant decision at a time.